Today we're going to talk about something that hits close to home for anyone who invests: trust. Specifically, we're diving into the Karvy stockbroking scam. This is the story of how one of India's biggest, most trusted names in finance completely shattered that trust on a massive scale. So let's get right into it. Seriously, just think about that for a moment. All those shares you've carefully picked out, the ones that are supposed to be building your future. What if you woke up one day and found out someone else had sold them? Or even worse, used them to get a loan for themselves, without your permission, without you even knowing. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, this wasn't hypothetical. For a whole lot of people, this became a shocking, devastating reality.
And the scale we're talking about here is just mind-boggling. 2,300 crore rupees. That's the value of the shares that were messed with. I mean, it's such a huge number, it's almost hard to wrap your head around it. But you've got to remember, behind that giant figure is the real, hard-earned money of everyday investors just like you and me.
And if that last number felt abstract, this one brings it right back down to earth. 95,000. That's how many people were directly hit by this. That's not just a statistic, right? That's 95,000 individuals, 95,000 families, whose trust was just completely shattered, their financial security thrown into chaos.
Okay, so let's start with what this really was. At its core, this was a massive betrayal. It wasn't just about the money, though that was huge. It was about breaking that fundamental trust that has to exist between you and your broker. And here's the kicker. Karvy wasn't some shady, unknown company. No way. They were a household name, a huge player in the Indian financial world. They did everything: stockbroking, registrar services, mutual funds, the whole shebang. People saw them as this solid, reliable pillar of the industry. And that's exactly what makes what they did next so unbelievably shocking.
All right, so that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does something like this even happen? I mean, how can your shares, which are your property, just disappear or get used by somebody else? Let's pull back the curtain and see exactly how they pulled it off.
Okay, so first, a quick reminder of how this is all supposed to work, right? Your shares live in something called a demat account. It's basically a digital safe for your investments. And the most important thing to remember is you are the owner. The broker, they're just the person you hire to help you buy and sell. Now, to do that, you usually sign something called a power of attorney, or POA. It gives them permission to make trades for you. But, and this is the crucial part, it absolutely does not mean they own your shares.
Right. So if the shares are yours, how in the world did Karvy get access to them? Well, that's the million-dollar question, and it's the key to this entire scam. The answer is pretty chilling. They took that power of attorney you trusted them with and turned it into a weapon in what was basically a three-step heist.
Here's the playbook. Step 1. They took shares from their clients' demat accounts and just transferred them into one of their own company accounts. Totally illegal, no permission asked. Step 2. They took those shares, again, your shares, and went to banks and pledged them as collateral, as if they owned them. And Step 3, the final move, they used that collateral to take out huge loans for their own business. Unbelievable.
To really get how wrong this is, let's try an analogy. Imagine you give a spare key to your house to your bank manager. Not to use, just to keep safe for you in a vault. You're trusting them, right? It's a safekeeping thing.
Okay, now imagine that bank manager takes your key, walks out, and mortgages your house to get a loan for the bank. That's it. That's the crime. It's that outrageous. Karvy just did it with a power of attorney instead of a house key. They used the access you gave them for one thing to do something completely different and completely illegal.
Well, a scam this big, this bold, it can't stay in the shadows forever. Sooner or later, the cracks start to show. So how did this massive house of cards finally come tumbling down? Let's get into the discovery.
It all started to unravel pretty fast back in 2019. The National Stock Exchange, the NSE, was doing a pretty standard inspection of Karvy, and they spotted some major red flags. Something just wasn't right. So they immediately alerted the big market regulator, SEBI. And thankfully, SEBI saw how serious this was and moved in. And they moved in fast, slapping Karvy with an immediate order.
And SEBI's response wasn't just a slap on the wrist. Nope, they were decisive. First, they straight up canceled Karvy's broking license. Done. Then, they banned them from getting any new clients, basically shutting the whole operation down. And the most important part, they ordered Karvy to return the shares to the people who actually own them.
So this whole story is more than just a shocking crime. It's a wake-up call, really.
It's full of lessons that every single one of us who invests needs to learn. So what can we take away from this? What's the playbook to protect ourselves?
All right, here's what you need to do. First, check your DMAT account statement regularly. Don't just let it sit there. Treat it like your bank statement. Second, double-check that the shares you buy are actually registered under your name. Third, that power of attorney we talked about, be super careful with it. Read the fine print. Know exactly what you're giving them permission to do. And finally, it's a good reminder of why regulators like CB are so important. They're our safety net.
And really, that leads us to the final, most important point. The Karvy scam is just this stark reminder of a simple truth. At the end of the day, while we need brokers and we rely on regulators, the number one person responsible for protecting your money is you. Your investments are yours, so you have to be vigilant. You have to stay informed and never, ever forget that trust is good, but verification is better.